Good. Hey, so after the spring game, Brett had talked about Luke's maturity and really kind of in all phases since I guess really the time you guys met. And in what ways has he matured? How do you see that day to day out of him?
That for me, this is the first time I've known Luke, so I know Brett's got a longer history with Luke. So he's got the preconceived notions of what he knew from recruiting him and before, but I've just known him since being here in January. And, he's a hard worker, which is good. It's kind of been teaching him, the expectations of how we're going to practice, how we're going to work here, but he's absorbed it and he's embraced it. And he's working his butt off trying to be a good player.
Obviously, he had a couple big plays, including the big touchdown on Monday. How have you seen him grow as a player since you guys got him 8 weeks, before the winter session and then into spring?
Yeah, he's grown. Just in the blocking game, in the passing game. There's still things he's got to work on a lot of things. There's a huge improvement that needs to happen with him, just from an effort standpoint, every single play, to pad level, to catching the ball one time. That's something we talk about all the time, is stop catching it twice when we throw you the football. But talent wise, he's got the ability. So it's just going to be a mentality for him, that he wants to play hard on every single snap.
And if I could get one more, Brett has talked about a desire to have starters on some of those special teams units. Why is that important to you guys? I think that might be a change from what some of us are used to seeing here. What's the thought process behind that, and why is it important for you?
Usually your starters are going to be your best players. And if special teams are important as a team, we need to have some starters on special teams. Punt team and kickoff team, those are the first plays of a defensive series. And your return teams, if you're going to put the ball in the hands of an offensive player, you want to have good people in front of them blocking as well. So it just sets a tone, for your team. And I know, Coach B's talked about that. Covering kicks, that's going to be a huge part of being a good football team. So you got to have guys that buy in and that want to play on special teams.
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it.
Coach, I'm curious on the tight end front. You come into a situation with DJ Barker's played a lot of football and maybe has kind of all conference possibilities. Luke Ford was a top 100 recruit and has that same potential. Do you feel like you have two top end of the Big Ten tight ends on your roster here?
I feel like I have a few really good tight ends. I don't know, whatever awards and stars, that none of that crap means anything. It just means, what you put in every day to get better. That's what we're focusing on. I'll let you guys decide who's all conference and, who gets the stars and the ribbons and the confetti at the end of the season. Who really cares? We just want to win football games, and we want to be productive football players. And that's what we put our focus on every day.
Let me ask it this way then. Do you think this can be a tight end focused offense? And I know that's not your call, and I know you're not the coordinator, but do you feel like they can be an emphasis of this offense?
Yeah, absolutely. That's just using your talents, kind of what we've been given here with the team we've got. Obviously DJ and Luke are two older guys, experienced guys that can give us a few things in the run game and the pass game. So we're going to use the guys that we've got, use their talents to help us be a good football team.
Thanks, Coach.
Hey, Ben, good to see you. I know we're talking about Luke and DJ's catching abilities in the offense, but I think something that Brett mentioned to us either after the game Monday or on Wednesday was also the blocking elements of these guys. Obviously an important part of being a tight end. What did you see on that front in the spring game that you maybe liked or even didn't like necessarily?
Yeah, I think that those are the things we see as coaches that maybe didn't impress us a whole lot. There was a bunch of plays where we need to be better blocking. And you don't notice, you notice the one-handed catches, and you notice all the oohs and ahs from being out in space with the football. But when you get down to the nitty gritty part of football, we want to pound on people. We've got to get better, and we got one more practice tomorrow to get better this spring, and then take that focus into August as we get ready for a long football season this year.
Is that a matter of individual work, or is that a matter of just further getting that install down? What do you see as the key to improving in that regard?
It's a lot of effort. It's a lot of individual work. Obviously, I think at this point we've got at least a huge percentage of the scheme down with what we're going to do. Is just kind of perfecting the skills we need, and the mentality and the effort you need on every snap, in order to win a Big Ten football game.
Thanks, Ben.
Hey, Coach. Thanks for doing this. I kind of wanted to ask about how you balance the use of a Daniel Barker, who obviously is really good split out, really good getting down the field in his passing routes, and then a Luke Ford, who's maybe not as gifted in that, but is maybe more gifted in the flat and getting open in short route situations. How do you kind of balance that within the offense, and how you set those guys up in 12 personnel, which I know you and Tony really want to run a lot of?
Yeah, you said it. You said it pretty well there. As you kind of use that reverse psychology on him. You tell Luke he's not good at something, he's going to be pissed off and want to get better at it. And DJ the same way. So you kind of play that against each other a little bit. And Luke wants to prove he's a great pass catcher, and DJ wants to prove he's a great blocker, because you're kind of telling those guys, hey, you're not good at this. And so that's kind of a fun game to play with those guys. But they know that, and they're both really hard workers. They've got big personalities, so. They're fun to coach that way. As long as they're working hard, we're going to have a lot of fun coaching them. They're going to have a lot of fun playing. So you got to use your strengths, and you got to build on your weaknesses, which they obviously have a lot of both right now. And we just got to keep building up those weaknesses to where they become a strength.
And then as you look at what each of those guys brings, how important is it to have those guys, really be successful in the things that they're good at now, but more importantly, how important is it for them to develop the weaknesses they have so you can get into the 12 personnel as much as you want to?
Right. I mean, that's what we're trying to do as a football team is build on all of our weaknesses, make them into something that can be used as a strength. So it's just continual day by day work we're going to keep doing.
Coach, I have a follow-up special teams question, probably a little longer question. So the previous staff went really heavy on coverage specialists, I'll say. At times last year, there were 6 of the 10 coverage guys on kickoff were walk-ons, 4 scholarship guys, and then a kicker. So, there's different ways to set that up. Some coaches like to save their starters. Some want to use their starters. Some want to take maybe a walk-on linebacker and say, hey, your role on this team is coverage units, and you're going to practice that every day and everything else. Personally, where do you fall on that spectrum? How do you view special teams and say opening kickoff of the Nebraska game, if it's coverage, how does the staff decide on the 10 guys who are going to be out there with the kicker?
Yeah, that'll be a staff discussion for sure. We want to have our best 11 out there every snap we can. Obviously, some of it comes with depth of a position as well. If you feel like you've got really good depth at corner, let's say, you're more willing to put a starting corner on a kickoff team in a certain scenario. I think you got to have scenarios where you've got some of your best defensive players ready to cover a kick at any moment in a game and a half in a game that way. So that's stuff we got to work through as a staff. If there's guys we need, you need to save their legs a little bit because they're playing every single snap on defense. You have that discussion as a staff. So it's got to be flexible for everybody. A lot of that stuff will come from Brett as we communicate depth charts and all that as we get closer to game time. But right now we're really just trying to find, and we're using everybody. Every single person that practices repping every special team. So we're going to find the best guys for each position, each group, and let that fall out in August as we get closer to game time.
I also have to ask the wind question, which I'm somewhat famous for around here, in that Champaign has some crazy winds. You'll have a game with 35-mile-an-hour winds out of the north, and you're punting one way, it's going to drop 15 yards short. You're punting the other way, it's going to sail 20 yards long. How on a game day, there have been different ways coaches kind of analyze that and set up their returners. Do you know of any processes or how you've treated the winds? I know, Colorado Springs isn't the least windy place on earth, and you've probably had to deal with this before. So, how do you approach winds and special teams?
I mean, use it to your advantage when you can. Do your research before a game and know where it's coming from, where it's going to be in the second half, where is it going to be in the fourth quarter. Just continually checking on that if the winds are going to shift, and really communication with your players. We got a few older specialists, and they always want to tell you which way they want to kick. Sometimes as a coach, you just say, "Hey, you're kicking it left. Like, deal with it." But sometimes you want to definitely use the wind to your advantage if it's going to be help going left to right or right to left. So just continual communication and research on what it's going to be like at game time. And knowing our stadium, our stadium's unique, and that you got a high side on the press box side, you got a lower side away from the press box, you got open corners. So getting to know that a little bit during spring, practicing in there each day, is just learning the wind. We use that to our advantage as much as we can.
Good, thanks.
Anything else?
Yeah, if I could follow up real quick on a comment you just had. In terms of you learning the wind and how that all works, how much of a help has it been for you in that process, having James DeCourt a super senior, having Blake Hayes a super senior, who kind of understand how that works inside the stadium?
Yeah, I think if you could walk in every single year and have a sixth-year senior, yeah, you'd take it as a coach. So just fortunate to have those guys for 1 year here coming up, and they're fantastic in how they communicate and their maturity and how they lead. And I think they're guys that people look up to on our football team, even though they're specialists. So they've been great, and their communication with me and with our coaching staff will be fantastic for how we play this fall.
Anything else? You're good.
All right, thanks.
Okay, Joey, go ahead.
What's up, Joey?
Hey, Aaron, happy Friday, man. How are you?
Happy Friday, brother. I am just as ecstatic as you, big dog.
Hey, we just got a chance to talk to Devin, and he, I know you've called him a junkyard dog in the past, and he kind of seems to pride himself on always being up and always being, trying to be at his best every day. For a coach to not have to dig at that part of him, how much does that kind of help get the most out of him on the field?
I think it's one of those innate qualities that you look for when you go out and recruit a kid, and sometimes it's hard to see that over the phone, or it's hard to see that if you're not physically at a kid's practice or physically watching them play. But to have that as a coach, I mean, I love it. I love it, man, because you can pretty much have a pretty good gauge on the room based off of him, because he's there. He gonna let you know he's there, and he's like that 24/7 on the field, off the field. Devin Witherspoon is Devin, like that's how he is 24/7, and so that's in his DNA. And as his position coach, like I love that, man. Like I absolutely love it. Like if there was a quality that I was looking for in a kid outside of him being extremely confident, right, it'll be that. And he checks that box. And not to say that it makes my life easier, but when your players can get up more than you can as a coach, as opposed to you trying to motivate them, like I think sometimes that's half the battle, you know. And Devin is always up, like that's who he is, you know. And so it's definitely beneficial for us.
And we saw he and Tony looks like they were the top 2 cornerbacks on Monday going into the season. You know, how do you feel about those two as your top 2? And what have you learned about them in the 3 or 4 months that you've known them?
Well, they're both extremely different, right? They're both extremely, extremely different, but they're both extremely talented, right? So Devin is a little more boisterous, a little more outspoken. He's gonna let you know he's there. And Tony's a little more quiet. You know, when I say quiet, I'm talking about in terms of just like he's not as anybody can be quiet next to Devin, right? But he's not as loud. He's going to get his job done. They're both going to communicate, but Devin is just like, you're going to see him, you're going to feel him, you're going to hear him like 24/7. Like Tony going to do his job. He's going to do a great job of doing his job, and he's going to handle his responsibilities, you know? And so like, I'm like the progression that these young men have made, like every last one of them that they've made from practice 1, right? When I was in meetings today, I showed them where we were at practice 1 to yesterday, practice 14, right? Has been absolutely tremendous. Now, these dudes were already talented, right? But for what we're trying to get done and what we're trying to do, I think they've made leaps and strides, right, over the course of 14 practices so far. And we're really looking forward to having this last one.
Awesome. Thank you, Aaron. Have a good weekend, man.
Thank you, brother. You too.
Hey, Coach Henry, I was going to ask you about Devin's kind of swagger and how much he's willing to talk before this, but then you kind of hit on it. So can you kind of just talk about the importance of a DB kind of having that swagger and the ability to kind of talk trash a little bit? Because it seems like that's just like part of what defensive backs do.
Well, I think sometimes, I think some DBs can get caught up in talking trash and not being any good, and they're so focused on the trash talking. And so when you're a really good player, though, I think you like, and that's part of your game. I think that's who you are, and I think that can make you a really elite player if it's utilized the right way, right? Like Deion Sanders was who he was because he was a hell of a football player, and whatever he said, he backed up. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what made Deion special. Chad Ochocinco was a hell of a football player, but whatever he said, he backed it up. You know, and so I'm not saying Devin Witherspoon is Deion Sanders, but I think that the young man has talent he has it. The good Lord blessed him, right? And he's not afraid to let you know that he has it. You know what I mean? And I think at times, on the outside looking in, or coaches may think, man, I need to reel that back a little bit. Not me, because I was the same exact way, and I want to let these young men be themselves, but play within the confines of what we want to get done, right? And so if that's who he is, I want to make sure he can be that within the confines of what we want to do. And he's been doing all of that, man. And I don't want to change his personality. I don't want to change who he is. I just want to make him more of who he already is.
So you mentioned that you kind of were that kind of same player who kind of spoke out a little bit. You're from Florida, Devin's from Florida. Do you see some of yourself in Devin Witherspoon now that you're a coach and older? Do you see some of yourself in him?
I will never tell Devin this, but Devin is a hell of a lot more athletic than I was. I can tell you that right now. So a lot of people don't know this about Spoon, as we call him around here. Spoon was a 6'7" high jumper. I couldn't jump 6'7" if I was on the trampoline. All right. So the good Lord naturally blessed that young man with the innate ability to go up and get the football, right? With the innate ability to jump. All right. We probably speed-wise, our speed was probably rather similar, but to jump that high, like you can make up for a lot of ground, right? If you're not as fast. I think Devin is a combination of fast and he can jump high, and he has tremendous ball skills, right? Devin was a baseball player as well. And so like the kid checks all the boxes, man, in terms of what you're looking for coming out of high school, in particular athletes. And so I would say the one of the main things we had in common, both of us like to talk trash, both of us being from Florida. Would I give myself the edge in terms of just straight line speed? Maybe, right? But everything else, he got me beat by a long mile, man.
And then if I could get one quick follow-up, I keep seeing pictures of you in your room after practice floating around on social media, whether it's the guys sharing it on their own, you sharing it on yours. How much have those guys really just kind of bought in and helped you guys kind of build that relationship that you're looking to build?
I can promise you this, right? So before we start every practice, we get a prayer together. All right. After we get off the field, we get a prayer together. And so I want these young men to know that yes, I'm their coach, but we're family more than anything. And so at the end of practice, right, at the end of a work day, you just got done busting your tail. This name, image, and likeness thing is about to come full circle, but you're busting your tail. And they got cameras out there, and you know DB's gonna be DBs, right? They want to flick it up for the camera a little bit, show their face a little bit, and just have a good time, man. And I just also I want these young men to be able to show their personality not only through how they play, but through images, right? Like 10 years from now, they're gonna be able to look back on some of those pictures, right? And man, we had a great day that day, man. I had a blast in camp. We learned in the spring ball, we learned a lot of football with Coach Henry. We developed some great relationships with Coach Henry. You know what I'm saying? And so like for me, it's more so memory based. You know, I'll take some of those same pictures and blow them up and have them in my office and have them at my home. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't know. It's just the foundation of trying to make sure I have relationships and build relationships with these young men. And the camera's around at the end, and so we like to smile a little bit. We like to let people know that we're there.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate you, brother.
Hey, Aaron. Good to see you. I know we've talked a fair amount about Devin and about Tony. Were there any other guys in that DB's room that really stood out to you during the spring game, whether we're talking orange or blue side? And I know that Coach Bielema has mentioned to us a couple times that the safety room is a little short-handed, but even so, just any other guys who stood out as well.
Absolutely, man. I think Kendall has done a tremendous job this spring as well. You know, Kendall's one of our longer corners. You know, I think from practice 1 to practice 14, he's gotten so much better, man, so much better in his technique and what we're trying to get done. And so I think he's going to help us when the season starts. I think the dark horse in all of this is Tavion Nicholson. And so Taz is a very, very, very special talent. Taz does things on the field that you can't coach. Taz does make mistakes like every DB does, but Taz has some innate ability in him, right? That's going to make him really, really special, right? Once he figures it out. I think during this process of spring ball, there was some growing pains with him, and he's still learning, right? But for years to come, I'm really, really looking forward to working with Taz, because I think he's going to be a really, really good player. He has all the tools to be a really, really, really good player. And it's my job over the course of his time here and make sure he maximizes it. You know, I'm just really excited about working with the whole room. Obviously, we know Talon. Talon was put on scholarship for us. You know, Talon's like our dark horse. We can pretty much move him anywhere, you know. Play a little bit of safety, play a little bit of nickel. Obviously, in the spring game, you saw him play a little bit of safety. So he had some guys dinged up a little bit. But I'm really proud and excited for every last one of the guys in my room. Again, from practice 1 to 14, I think guys have bought in. You know, I think anytime there's change and transition, you're always like hesitant at first, but guys seeing what kind of person I am, what kind of person I truly am, all right, how my core is made up, and I think they want to be better football players, because I think all the relationships that we have and the relationship that we've built has allowed them to do that and trust me.
And for the guys who were on the blue team for that spring game, I know they were faced with a lot of difficulties in the DB side of things on the blue side. But what did you preach to those guys as far as the opportunity that was for them, just getting to compete against those proverbial number ones, I guess, in a setting like that?
Well, I mean, anytime we play in a football game, right, like there's always going to be a winner and a loser. And so just constantly in my room, I'm always preaching about taking advantage of the opportunity that you have. You know, like anytime we playing again, we're playing to win. You know, obviously you're going to be graded on your technique and your assignment and how well did you do your job and how fast did you do your job. But just like really taking advantage of the opportunity that you have at that particular moment, you know, and whether it's a play, right, a quarter, a half, a game, like just take full advantage of it, you know, because when we start, obviously come fall camp, right, I'm going to have 4 other corners walking this bad boy wanting to play, right, which that's exactly what I want. You know what I'm saying? And then there's going to be a lot more competition, you know, and so I'm just constantly trying to build these guys with the mindset of like, focus on what you have now and take full advantage of it, right? And let's maximize what you can do right now. Let's not worry about what can happen. Let's maximize what we can do right now so we can be the best players we're capable of being. And I think there were some ups and downs. I think there were some peaks and valleys during that process, but overall as a unit, I felt like we got better.
Thanks, Aaron. Have a good weekend.
You too, brother.
Coach, I want to take you back to your playing career for a second.
Don't remind me.
So when you were a senior, and this game in the last decade of Illinois football sticks out as this example I've always used of field position. So Illinois, Wisconsin, 2011, your senior year.
Yes, sir.
Illinois is surprisingly playing well, has a 17-7 lead at halftime.
Yep, they were up 14-0 during the game.
Yeah, up early, and Wisconsin offense really struggling. But Wisconsin wins basically because of 3 interceptions and a fumble and the 4 touchdowns. So Wisconsin wins 28-17. The 4 Wisconsin touchdown drives were 2 yards, 30 yards, 44 yards, and 39 yards, which put it away after your interception. So it's always been this example of a game I've used as, look, you can play this, you can do this, you can do absolutely everything right. But 3 interceptions on your side of the field, and you're going to lose. Like, it takes away everything else. Do you preach that? Like, I'm sure that coaching staff preached that to you at Wisconsin. Do you use moments like that to preach that to your corners?
Robert, I think you were in my meeting room this week. I really believe that you had a camera hidden in my meeting room. So it's funny that you say that. I think it was like 3 days ago, I pull up some of my highlights, right? Just to, you know, as a coach, sometimes you got to remind these dudes that you was a pretty good player. So I pull up some of my highlights, and my highlights were against Illinois. You know, and it showed the pick that I had. It showed a couple of the picks that we had in the game, but it specifically showed the pick that I had. But you know, that's not just a me thing, right? That's what's being put into our program. So Coach B, I wish you guys can be in this building and see this dude, man. Like, I'm so freaking thrilled to be with Brett Bielema, man. Like right now, he's like out of worldly with just how he does some things and the way he does it. So I'm gonna give you a prime example, right? Coach B always talks about how more games are lost than won. That phrase specifically, more games are lost than won. All right. And he flashes back, you know, and he's showing our players, right, when he was at different stops in his career, how we lost the game, or he lost the game, or a player lost the game, right? And how simple mistakes eventually end up to you losing, right? So the phrase more games are lost than won, right, is simply based on like things that we can control, right? So that specific day, Illinois could have controlled throwing interceptions, right? Whether the ball was tipped, our receiver catching the ball, right? Quarterback making a bad read. Like, we can't have those plays happen, right? We can't have those plays happen if we want to have a great chance to beat this really, really good football team in Wisconsin at the time, right? We can't beat ourselves, essentially, is what he's saying. And so as we're progressing as coaches, you know, and as I'm talking to my players, kind of reiterating what Coach B's talking about, I'm flashing back to my time at Wisconsin when we played Michigan. All right, Michigan beat us on a last-second play. I'm still sick to my stomach with that play. I can still visualize what happened, all right, that last-second play, right? And we were up on them 14-0, but I can tell you we lost that game. We lost that game, right? Coach will tell you we lost that game. We did everything we could to lose that game, We turned the ball over. All right, we didn't take advantage of opportunity. We were up 14-0, and they come back and win the game. Were they a good football team? 100%. 100%. But we did everything we were supposed to do to lose that game, right? And so I'm constantly just reminding our guys, all right, about situational football. How can we take advantage of this quarterback? How can we take advantage of this offense, right? When the ball carrier's running with the football, right? Does he got it tight to his core, or is he wild with it, right? That's an opportunity for us to get a punch at it. You know, like games are lost, right? Because really, really good teams can expose those weaknesses, all right, that a team may not know until they actually get into the game. And so, like, around this building, man, coach is doing a tremendous job at preaching it. There's times in practice where he'll stop practice, all right, and have an emphasis point where he's talking to the offense or defense about just situational awareness and situational football. Because sometimes our players can get so caught up in just playing the game, right? Playing the game. It's first down. They just playing. They're not understanding, okay, it's first down in a high red zone. All right, there's things that offenses like to do. There's things that coaches like to do. There's schematic things that teams like to do. And so understanding that. So the more our guys understand that, the more our guys understand that more games are lost than won, I think the better they'll be, because they'll be more cognizant of it, right? They'll have more strain when they're working towards being better at it, which I think overall is going to make us a better football team. If I answered.
Good answer. Thanks, Coach.
Yes, sir. Thank you. But you were definitely in my meeting this week.
Yeah, I got everything bugged. Don't worry.
Anything else, you guys? You're good.
Have a good weekend, boys.
Thanks, Coach.